I want to make a video on some other subject about logical conclusions. I mean, this is the thing. This is the basic idea, which is prefaced on, and this comes out of the idea of making videos that are kind of redundant. I make a lot of the same points in these videos, and that's because the conclusions that you come to in reality and recognizing objective truth in reality, very simple, it's very redundant, it's very simplistic. There's one truth. There's no dividing truths. There's nothing that you can do about that. Obviously, you can fantasize. You can still fantasize. What your fantasy is just a projection. You're just imagining it. Once you recognize that, then I can obviously take it away. But that's a natural conclusion. Just because you don't want to come to that conclusion doesn't mean you shouldn't come to the conclusion. You should still indulge in the truth and stay the fantasy, like the thing when I said the weight thing in the hands and separating by the close thing. You could still indulge in your fantasy, but naturally coming from that, you would almost say that, almost like sort of not like you don't want to, you wish to be yourself and not one of the sheeple, the Borg, even though you have to suffer with this weight of this recognition of reality. Say perceptually, just understanding the weight of it. Recognizing and having all this, even just empathy and understanding ethics and having this ethical code that's so strong and controlling of you. You don't end up experiencing it, understanding it in someone else. So yeah, it's about understanding that more than anything. Once you understand this truth, the straight line of logic. So once you understand the logical conclusion is just a straight line. It is just a straight line. I sort of lost track of where I was. So yeah, coming to lots of conclusions, like making videos and getting redundant and things like that. There is one logical conclusion. There's no branching past. Oh yeah, the point I was making is just because it's a natural conclusion that you'd come to, and it's like not wanting to become one of the sheeple. Once you come to these conclusions, you want to be one of the people that has these conclusions. And you don't want to. Once you're here, you don't want to be one of them. And that's almost applying what I would feel when looking at other people and such and so forth. The reasonable person doesn't want to be the sheeple. They want to maintain their knowledge, knowing this and knowing it's better for everyone, even though they know the people that are ignorant are still being gamed by the game, even though they may not necessarily recognize it on a grand scale in the whole life game. They want to do it for better, and they don't want to be the sheeple, but they want to help the sheeple. They want to help the Borg. They want to help them so that there's no longer this deprivation, this imposition. And even though I say this, that doesn't mean you. And I almost say it contradicts the idea that you can't come to your. You can disconnect your fantasies from your reality. I'm almost contradicting by saying it's a deprivation, especially once you come to recognition. It's just a projection that your fantasies are, and it's contradicting the point that you can still live in fantasies and recognize the truth. And I say that once you recognize the truth, it's a deprivation of your psychological health. But what it is once you reach that conclusion, you almost want it to do it. I can still indulge in fantasy, though. I'm still capable of that. It's just once you do that, you want that. And you want that weight, and you know that you have an obligation to help this weight and move it forward and do some work and use it to your not just to your advantage, but to everyone else's advantage. You want to make it better for everyone. You have an obligation. You have a moving force. You know you can do it. You can gratify whatever ego you want. You have more drive. You can see more purpose. Your purpose is predicated on other people. Seeing the happiness in someone else's face based on the actions you do almost becomes your purpose. There's a purpose there. There's a purpose, and that's almost begging the purpose, like purpose beyond purpose. What's the purpose of life? There is no purpose other than getting through life, and that's obviously helping people get through life and making their lives easier to live through and such. And that's obviously what I mean. There's no purpose beyond the asking the question, what purpose is there beyond the purpose, but the purpose of that purpose, and then why, and then where, and then when, where, why, and the purpose of what's beyond that. And there's nothing. You just look at it, and that's the purpose. There's nothing beyond continuing asking the question. So, you can still indulge in your fantasies, and I can still do it, and obviously it's a detriment to recognizing the game, but you can still indulge in your fantasies. But once you get to this point, it doesn't contradict the idea of indulging in your fantasies, even though I say it's detrimental to your psychological health, because once you reach this point, you can still indulge in your fantasies, and you should not want to do it just because I say it's psychologically depriving and such, because you want to be this. Once you get here, you don't want to get away from it. So it's a conclusion that almost seems reasonable. You want to be here once you get here, and you can still indulge in fantasy, and it's almost a transitional stage I'm talking about from getting there to here. So that's exactly what I mean. And that's exactly the point. It's very redundant, these videos. It's very basic. I'm regurgitating the same ideas. I'm just trying to connect them from different points of view and trying to connect them into one idea. That's why I go off on tangents a lot. And I've mentioned this before in other videos. I just want to make it clear. And that's part of the reason I'm talking fast. And I want to get to the point. I want to make sure I go through these points. That's why I don't want to pause. I pause, I think of things, I want to move on, but I forget things, and then I get frustrated. Oh, I need to make another video. I need to watch the video to make sure what point I was making. And it just causes all sorts of problems. I have to write down another thing to make a video, and it just causes all sorts of other problems. So I try my best to remember as much as I can and feel like I'm satisfied. And that comes to another thing. It's just the satisfaction. Trying to convince yourself, understanding that it's not always, you don't have to always live up to your expectations. So like the point I made with making a decision, thinking things through, of doing things a certain way, then moving back and thinking things another way. It doesn't always have to be exactly the way that you expect them, or think viscerally beforehand that you're feeling some fulfillment. Fulfillment for what? To an end. For what? Minimizing suffering is the only thing you could do here. Minimizing the mess. Fulfilling an ego to a certain point, but fulfilling an ego practically, and not trying to just, obviously you can only fill a big ego by having more deprivation than filling that big ego, and that's obviously, that's the game. We're stuck. And there's nothing you can do but the mechanism, but be within the mechanism, the floating thing in the water where you keep on tilting it back and forth, the floating ball where it's sort of stuck in the bubbles and moving back. You're just stuck. You're stuck in the middle of the thing, the ball's moving back, and you're just stuck with the one in the middle. You're stuck. You can't move out, and you can only go left and right, but the balls are just keeping you in the middle. You're stuck in the mechanism. So there's only one conclusion. There's only one logical conclusion. That's all. We're stuck with one logical conclusion. It leads a straight line. There's no aberrance. You can still live fantasy, but your fantasy is just a projection based on the aberrance that exists in this world, based on the objective reality that's allowing you to have fantasies to begin with. And it's in your head, it's very ethereal, and yeah, you can dream, you can be in something, but it's like that. There's no context to dreams. You're just in it, out of it. Same thing with everything else. There's context to this existence, especially when you're suffering. There's context to the suffering, the ability to suffer and be deprived. But when you're dead, there's no context beyond that. So there's only one. You can make up things, but you're not. You can make up things all you want. You're not destroying the truth. You can imagine yourself something special. You're not something special. You're just fooling yourself. There's nothing more than the game that we're playing. One logical conclusion, and if you're just lying to yourself within the logical conclusions that are factually being proven about reality. So you're lying yourself and creating a fantasy inside the reality that you're trying to fool yourself isn't actually the way it is, even though you know it's the way it is, and it's exactly the way you know it is. You just don't want to accept it. You're in denial, so you know exactly the point. So like these people that accuse people of believing a religion. How can, they don't believe the religion, but they believe the religion. Why do you keep believing the religion? But they don't believe in the religion because they couldn't believe in the religion. They're just using it to their advantage, and so on and so forth. They believe it, but they don't believe it. They get confused if people are believing in the religion, or if they're just using it to their advantage, or if they're just using it as a comfort or a social club or whatever it is, and so on and so forth. So I think that's the only thing I want to say. One logical conclusion, there's nothing more to it than that. That's a life game. So yeah, thank you, and until next time, we're stuck in nothing but this game. Bye.